High Admiral Zextar stood on the bridge of the Infinite Dominion, his four eyes fixed on the blue-green planet displayed on the main view screen. His scaled lips curled into what his species considered a smile. This world, designated as Sol 3 by their scouts, would be an easy conquest like all the others. "Status report," he commanded, his translator converting his clicking speech into standard galactic basic. "The primitive civilization shows minimal orbital defenses," Admiral reported his sensor officer. "We detect approximately 8,000 artificial satellites, most for communication and observation purposes. Their spacecraft are chemical propulsion-based. No energy shields detected." Zextar nodded in satisfaction. The inhabitants of this world hadn't even developed basic gravitic drives yet. This would be a simple subjugation, earning him another commendation from the HFY High Command. "Their military capabilities," he asked, following standard invasion protocols. "Primitive nuclear weapons, chemical explosives, and projectile-based weapons systems. No particle weapons, no antimatter technology, not even basic plasma weapons," the tactical officer reported with obvious disdain. "They call themselves humans." The bridge crew chittered in amusement. These humans would learn their place in the galaxy quickly enough. The HFY had conquered dozens of worlds like this one, all now serving as productive members of their ever-expanding empire. "Begin standard invasion formation," Zextar ordered. "Position the fleet tow." "Admiral." The sensor officer's voice rose in pitch, a sign of alarm in their species. "Deep space sensors are detecting something unusual in the system's outer region." Zextar turned all four eyes toward the officer. "Explain." "Artificial structures detected in what the natives call the Kuiper Belt. They appear to be ships, Admiral, but the energy readings are unlike anything in our database." "Show me," Zextar commanded, his interest piqued. The main view screen shifted to display a cluster of massive objects, each easily dwarfing his flagship. They appeared to be dormant, covered in what looked like ice and cosmic dust, but their shapes were unmistakably artificial. "How old are these structures?" Zextar asked, a feeling of unease creeping into his gut. The sensor officer worked his controls frantically. "Sir, initial dating suggests these structures are approximately 300,000 local years old." A heavy silence fell over the bridge. That was impossible. No known civilization in this sector was that old. And if these were indeed warships— "Sir," the communications officer interrupted, "we're detecting increased transmissions from the planet. They appear to be celebrating something." The main screen split to show media broadcasts from Earth. Humans were gathered in crowds, cheering and embracing. News headlines scrolled across their primitive screens. "Ancient Afleet Code and Fire Meet. Humanity's Lost Legacy Found. Emergency Protoxiolas Ionite." Zextar felt his scales bristle. Something was very wrong here. These primitives shouldn't even know about the ancient ships yet, let alone be celebrating their discovery. "Unless—" "Sir," the sensor officer's voice was almost a screech now. "The structures, they're beginning to power up. Energy readings are off the scale. And they're responding to signals from the planet." Zextar watched in growing horror as the ancient ships began to shed their icy cocoons. Lights flickered to life across their massive hulls, revealing symbols that made his blood run cold. They matched the decorative patterns his scouts had reported seeing carved into ruins across Earth's surface. These weren't alien ships the humans had just discovered. They were human ships that had been waiting to be found. And in his arrogance, Zextar had just given them a reason to wake up. Dr. Emily Chen stared at her computer screen in the underground facility beneath the Atacama Desert, her hands trembling with excitement. Around her, dozens of scientists from different countries worked frantically, analyzing data streaming in from space telescopes and deep space sensors. "This can't be right," she whispered, double-checking her calculations. "These ships, they're built with materials we've only theorized about. Her colleague, Dr. James Rodriguez, leaned over her shoulder. "What did you find?" "The whole composition." Emily pointed to her screen. "It's some kind of metamaterial that can change its properties. Look at these readings. It's like the ships can alter their very structure at will." Above them, on the massive wall screen, satellite images showed the alien invasion fleet holding position near Mars. But nobody in the facility was worried about them anymore. Not after what they'd discovered in the Kuiper Belt. "Dr. Chen," called out Dr. Hassan from across the room. "You need to see this. We've managed to decode more of the symbols from the Antarctic ruins. They match perfectly with the markings on the ancient ships." Emily rushed over, her heart pounding. For years, archaeologists had argued about the strange geometric patterns found in various ancient sites around Earth. Most had dismissed them as primitive art or religious symbols. Now they knew better. "They're not just random decorations," Hassan explained, pointing to his tablet. "They're mathematical equations, instructions. Our ancestors left us an operator's manual hidden in plain sight across the entire planet." The room fell silent as new data appeared on the main screen. 3 years ago, a routine mining operation in Greenland had uncovered something impossible. A chamber filled with advanced technology, sealed away for hundreds of thousands of years. Similar sites had been discovered since then, each containing pieces of humanity's forgotten history. "Listen to this," Emily announced, reading from a newly decoded text. "Our descendants, if you are reading this, know that we did not abandon you. We hid our greatest achievements to protect you from those who would destroy us all. The fleet sleeps until you are ready to awaken it." Dr. Rodriguez pulled up another screen showing DNA analysis results. "That's not all. The genetic markers we found in the ancient sites, they're not just similar to modern human DNA. They're exactly what we have now, deliberately preserved. Our ancestors engineered themselves, engineered us, to be compatible with their technology." Outside the facility, the desert night was lit up by the frantic activity of military vehicles and aircraft. Every major power on Earth had mobilized, but not to fight each other. For the first time in human history, all nations worked together, racing to unlock the legacy their ancestors had left them. "New data coming in," shouted one of the technicians. "The ships, they're responding to our attempts to communicate. The AI systems are intact." Emily rushed back to her station, her fingers flying over the keyboard. The ancient ships had begun broadcasting data on frequencies that seemed to bypass normal physics, transmitting directly into receivers that had laid dormant in human-built devices, waiting for the right moment. "Oh my God," she breathed, reading the incoming data. "These aren't just warships. This is a backup of their entire civilization, history, technology, science, everything they knew, preserved for us to find when we were ready." A new message flashed across her screen, simple but clear. "DNA Matchige Koko HFY Stories. Activation Protocols Initi. Hiti. Welcome home. Chajal Durian of Earth." In orbit around Mars, the alien invasion fleet was about to learn why their long-range scans had always shown this sector of space as prohibited territory. The massive view screen in Earth's Combined Defense Command showed a sight that made everyone hold their breath. Against the black of space, the first of humanity's ancient ships was shedding its icy shell like a butterfly emerging from its cocoon. Colonel Sarah Martinez stood at the control interface, her hand hovering over the activation panel. Around her, military leaders from every major nation watched in tense silence. They had chosen her for this moment because her DNA showed the strongest match with the ancient genetic markers. "Are you ready, Colonel?" General Chen asked quietly. Sarah nodded, trying to keep her hand steady. "Yes, sir. Though I still don't understand why they chose me. The ships don't just respond to any human DNA." Dr. Emily Chen explained from her station. "They're looking for specific genetic sequences. Something in your family line remained almost perfectly preserved for 300,000 years." Sarah placed her hand on the panel. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the crystal surface lit up with a soft blue glow. Above them, the massive ship, nearly 3 kilometers long, fully awakened. Connection established. The computer announced. Genetic verification complete. Welcome, Guardian Herr Martinez. The title made Sarah's spine tingle. On another screen, they could see the HFY invasion fleet scrambling to battle positions. They had clearly noticed the ancient ship powering up. Ship status, General Chen demanded. Hull integrity at 100%, reported one of the technicians, sounding amazed. Power systems at full capacity. It's like it was built yesterday. The preservation technology is incredible. Sarah felt a strange sensation in her mind, like a gentle whisper. The ship was trying to communicate directly with her. She closed her eyes, allowing the connection to form. The neural interface is active, Dr. Chen announced excitedly. Colonel, what do you see? Everything, Sarah whispered. Through the ship's sensors, she could perceive space in ways she never imagined possible. The vessel's hull wasn't solid metal. It was made of billions of tiny machines that could change their structure instantly. This isn't just a warship. It's alive. Suddenly, alarms blared. The HFY had launched their first attack, a barrage of plasma torpedoes aimed at the ancient vessel. Everyone tensed, but Sarah remained calm. Through her connection, she sensed the ship's capabilities. The incoming weapons posed no threat. The plasma torpedoes struck the hull and vanished. No explosion, no damage, nothing. The ship had simply absorbed their energy, adding it to its own power reserves. My God, someone whispered. Sarah opened her eyes, a smile forming on her lips. The ship says that was barely a warm-up. It's showing me its weapons systems now. This HFY's technology. It's like bringing spears to a nuclear war. Through their shared consciousness, the ship revealed its true nature. It wasn't just built to fight. It was designed to protect, to preserve life. Each weapon had multiple functions, capable of both defending Earth and ensuring minimal loss of life among their attackers. More ships are awakening, Dr. Chen reported. 7 more vessels are showing signs of activation. They're all responding to Colonel Martinez's connection. Sarah felt the other ships joining the neural network, their combined consciousness expanding her awareness even further. Now she understood why her ancestors had hidden this fleet. This kind of power had to be earned, had to be used with wisdom and restraint. The HFY fleet launched another attack. This time, Sarah was ready. She didn't need physical controls. The ship responded to her thoughts instantly. Let's show our uninvited guests, she said calmly, exactly why Earth was marked as forbidden territory. The ancient vessel moved with impossible grace, its hull rippling like liquid metal in starlight. Humanity's guardians were awake, and the galaxy was about to remember why. As Colonel Martinez floated in the ancient ship's command center, holographic displays danced around her. The ship's AI, calling itself Guardian, was finally ready to reveal the truth about humanity's past. Your ancestors did not fall, Guardian explained, its voice resonating directly in Sarah's mind. They chose to hide, to protect not just Earth, but thousands of developing worlds. Dr. Emily Chen, who had been granted access to the command center, watched in amazement as the holograms showed scenes from Earth's forgotten history. The images showed a civilization far more advanced than anything humans could currently imagine. But why make us forget everything? Sarah asked. Why go back to the Stone Age? The AI displayed a new image, a star map of the galaxy. Countless points of light represented worlds that had once been under Earth's protection. The enemy was too powerful to fight directly, Guardian explained. They consumed entire civilizations, stole their technology, their knowledge. Your ancestors realized that the only way to save the galaxy was to hide their power where it could never be found. Emily gasped as she understood. Inside us, they hid their legacy inside human DNA. Correct, Guardian confirmed. They modified their own genetics, ensuring their descendants would evolve with the capacity to one day reclaim this technology, but only when they had developed the wisdom to use it properly. More holograms appeared, showing the careful planning that had gone into humanity's guided evolution. Their ancestors had created a perfect hiding place, a seemingly primitive world that was actually a carefully designed sanctuary. The caves, the ruins, all the ancient sites, Emily said excitedly. They weren't just storing information. They were monitoring our development. Sarah touched one of the floating displays, and it expanded to show more detail. These ships, they're not just weapons, are they? No, Guardian here, the AI replied. They are seeds. Each vessel contains the knowledge and technology to rebuild our civilization. But unlike the Zixkari and others who steal and conquer, we chose to wait until our children could grow into their power naturally. Outside the ship, the Zixkari fleet was still trying to breach their defenses. Their most powerful weapons couldn't even scratch the ancient vessel's hull. I'm receiving reports from the other awakened ships, Sarah announced. Their AIs are all activating. They're calling more vessels. There aren't just a few ships out here. There are hundreds. Guardian's holographic displays shifted to show the full scope of the hidden fleet. Dozens of massive ships were now emerging from their icy hiding places throughout the solar system. Your ancestors were not just another spacefaring race, Guardian explained. They were the guardians of evolution itself. They protected young civilizations, helped them grow, prevented more advanced races from interfering. Even the Zixkari's ancestors once benefited from Earth's protection, though they have forgotten. Emily looked at the sensor readings in awe. The technology in just one of these ships could advance Earth by centuries. The medical knowledge alone. All will be shared, Guardian assured them. But first, we must deal with those who would harm our children. The Zixkari must be reminded why this sector of space was declared forbidden. Sarah felt the ship's power humming through her neural connection. She understood now why her ancestors had waited so long. This kind of power, this responsibility, required more than just technological advancement. It required the heart to protect rather than conquer. Guardian, she said firmly, show me how to remind them. Admiral Zextar watched in growing horror as his fleet's most powerful weapons proved useless against even a single human ancestral ship. His tactical officer had gone silent, scales pale with fear. How? Zextar demanded. How are they blocking everything we throw at them? Before anyone could answer, the human vessel began to move. It didn't fly like a normal ship. Instead, space itself seemed to bend around it. One moment it was near the Kuiper Belt, the next it was directly in front of the Zixkari fleet. Inside the ancient ship, Colonel Sarah Martinez felt the power flowing through her neural connection. Guardian was teaching her how to control the vessel's advanced systems. The ship doesn't just move through space, Sarah explained to Dr. Chen, who was documenting everything. It folds space around itself. Distance doesn't mean the same thing to these vessels. Through her neural link, Sarah could see the Zixkari ships in incredible detail. The ancient vessel's sensors showed her not just their positions, but their structural weaknesses, crew locations, and power distributions. Time to show them what we can do, Sarah said. Guardian, prepare a demonstration. The ship's AI responded instantly. A small section of the hull transformed, reshaping itself into what looked like a delicate crystal flower. Energy began to gather at its center. Warning shot only, Sarah commanded. Let's give them a chance to surrender. The crystal structure pulsed once. A beam of pure white light shot out, passing between two Zixkari destroyers. The aliens probably expected it to be some kind of energy weapon. It wasn't. The space between the destroyers briefly rippled like water. Both alien ships suddenly found themselves pushed apart by an expanding bubble of altered space-time. By the first egg, one of Zextar's officers exclaimed. They're manipulating fundamental forces. This isn't technology. It's impossible. Sarah's voice broadcasted across all frequencies, translated perfectly into the Zixkari language. This is Colonel Martinez of Earth's Guardian Fleet. That was a fraction of one ship's lowest powered weapon. We now have 15 vessels active and hundreds more awakening. Surrender, or we will be forced to demonstrate our full capabilities. To emphasize her point, more of the ancient ships appeared around the Scifi fleet, simply blinking into existence as they folded space. Each one was larger than anything the aliens had ever built. Dr. Chen watched the sensor readings in amazement. The ships aren't just coordinating. They're working as one. The neural network is linking them all together. Sarah nodded. Through the network, she could feel the other human operators connecting to their ships. Each person's mind added to the fleet's capabilities, guided by the wisdom of the Guardian AIs. Final warning, Sarah broadcasted. Your ancestors once knew us as the guardians of evolution. We protected young civilizations, including yours, from exploitation. We chose to hide our power, not because we were weak, but because we understood the responsibility it carried. The ancient ships moved in perfect synchronization, their hulls shifting like liquid metal in starlight. Each vessel now pointed a weapon at the Scifi fleet, weapons that could rewrite the laws of physics in small areas. The choice is yours, Admiral Zextar, Sarah concluded. Learn from this mistake, or become an example of why Earth's sector remained forbidden for so long. In his command chair, Admiral Zextar realized that his people's legends about the Guardians hadn't been myths after all. They had just tried to invade the very power their ancestors had warned them never to challenge. In the heart of the ancient flagship, Sarah Martinez and Dr. Chen watched as Guardian displayed more historical records. The ship's central chamber had transformed into a vast holographic space, showing scenes from Earth's forgotten past. These are the archives from all awakened vessels, Guardian explained. Your ancestors left a complete record of their achievements and responsibilities. The images showed countless alien worlds, each protected by ships identical to the ones they now controlled. Human guardians walking among different species, helping them develop without interference from more advanced civilizations. Wait, Dr. Chen pointed at one scene. Those buildings, they look exactly like the ruins on the Scifi homeworld. Sarah zoomed in on the hologram. It showed ancient humans helping early Scifi build their first cities, protecting them from hostile alien raiders. They don't even know their own history. We were their guardians too. On the main view screen, the Scifi fleet remained frozen in place, their weapons powered down after the demonstration of Earth's superior technology. Admiral Zextar had requested time to consult with his high command. Guardian, Sarah asked, how many civilizations did we protect? The AI displayed a new map of the galaxy. Thousands of points of light appeared, each representing a world that had once been under Earth's protection. The network extended across 60% of the known galaxy. Your ancestors didn't rule these worlds. They safeguarded their natural development. Dr. Chen studied the data scrolling past. But something made them hide everything. Something scared them enough to bury their entire civilization. The holographic display darkened. New images appeared, showing massive shadow-like entities moving between stars. They came from outside the galaxy, Guardian explained. We called them the Devourers. They didn't just conquer worlds. They consumed them, absorbed all knowledge and technology into themselves. Sarah felt a chill as she watched the recording. The shadow beings were enormous, large enough to engulf entire planets. How did we fight them? We couldn't, Guardian replied. Not directly. The more we fought, the stronger they became. Every weapon we used, they absorbed and turned against us. Your ancestors made the only choice they could. They hid their power where the Devourers would never think to look. In ourselves, Dr. Chen whispered. In our own evolution. The holograms showed the massive undertaking. Thousands of Guardian ships helping to dismantle Earth's advanced civilization. Cities were buried, technology was hidden, and the human genome was carefully modified to preserve the ability to one day reclaim their heritage. The Devourers searched for centuries, Guardian continued. but they could not find what no longer existed. Eventually, they left this galaxy, seeking easier prey. Sarah watched as the final records played out. Our ancestors didn't just hide their technology. They scattered clues across the galaxy. All those ancient ruins, the mysterious artifacts other races have found. All part of the plan, Guardian confirmed. A vast network of Guardians, sleeping until needed. The HFY invasion triggered exactly the scenario these ships were preserved for: the protection of developing worlds from those who would exploit them. A new alert flashed across the display. Admiral Zextar was requesting to speak with the human commanders. Your ancestors were not just powerful, Guardian said as Sarah prepared to answer the call. They were wise enough to know when not to use their power. Remember that lesson, Guardian Hair. It is not our technology that makes us special. It is how we choose to use it. Sarah nodded, understanding at last the full weight of the legacy she and humanity had inherited. They weren't just reclaiming lost technology. They were remembering what it meant to be humanity at its best. Admiral Zextar's hologram stood before the human commanders in the ancient ship's conference chamber. His scales had lost their proud shine, and his 4 eyes blinked nervously as he looked at the historical records displayed around him. "Impossible," he whispered, looking at images of his own ancestors being protected by human guardians. "Our oldest texts speak of the sky shields who protected us from the Star Raiders. But that was you." Sarah Martinez nodded. "Not us personally, but our ancestors. Your people were among thousands of civilizations we helped nurture." She gestured, and more holograms appeared, showing the careful planning that had gone into humanity's own development. Dr. Chen stepped forward, pointing to a DNA sequence floating in the air. "Look at this, Admiral. Our ancestors didn't just hide their technology. They'd redesigned themselves. Every major step in human evolution was carefully guided." Guardian's voice filled the chamber. The plan required perfect timing. The human brain needed to develop specific neural patterns to interface with our systems. Their bodies needed the right genetic markers to activate our technology. Even their emotional and social development was carefully shaped. New displays showed the hidden meanings behind Earth's ancient myths and legends. Stories of gods and magic had actually been carefully crafted memories, ensuring that when humanity rediscovered their technology, they would have the cultural framework to use it wisely. The cave paintings, Dr. Chen said excitedly. The pyramids, Stonehenge, they weren't just monuments. They were monitoring stations, checking our development against the original plan. Zextar watched in amazement as the data showed how human art, science, and philosophy had been subtly guided over thousands of generations. "You mean everything. Your entire species' development was planned, not controlled." Sarah corrected him. "Guided. Our ancestors wanted us to develop our own culture, our own identity. They just made sure we would have the capability to reclaim our heritage when the time was right." Guardian displayed a final set of readings. The HFY invasion triggered the awakening because humanity had finally reached the required benchmarks. Your technological development, cultural advancement, and most importantly, your ethical evolution. Dr. Chen studied the data with wide eyes. The last 50 years were crucial. Our growing environmental awareness, the development of international cooperation, our first steps into space, these weren't just progress. They were final tests. Tests you passed, Guardian confirmed. Your ancestors ensured you would only regain this power once you understood the responsibility it carried. Your reaction to the HFY threat proves their wisdom. Instead of seeking revenge, you offered peace. Sarah turned to Admiral Zextar. "Your invasion was a mistake, but it might also be an opportunity. Your people have lost their way, forgotten the values our ancestors helped instill in them. Perhaps it's time to remember." The Admiral looked at his fleet through the view screen, then at the massive Guardian ships surrounding them. His people's legends suddenly made sense. Stories of ancient protectors who used power not to conquer, but to preserve and nurture. The Devourers might return one day, Guardian warned. That's why humanity needed to reclaim their heritage naturally, developing wisdom alongside power. The galaxy will need guardians again. Sarah felt the truth of these words through her neural link with the ship. Their ancestors hadn't just hidden their legacy. They had created the perfect training program, spanning thousands of generations. Now, humanity had finally graduated. 1 month after the Scifi invasion attempt, the Great Hall of the United Nations was filled with both human and alien representatives. The ancient ships now orbited Earth peacefully, their hulls gleaming in the sunlight like ancient shells washed up on a cosmic shore. Colonel Sarah Martinez stood at the podium, addressing the gathered delegates. Behind her, Admiral Zextar waited with several other Scifi officials, their scales now adorned with the ancient symbols of peace their people had long forgotten. Today, Sarah began, we face a choice that will shape not just Earth's future, but the galaxy's. Our ancestors left us more than just powerful ships and advanced technology. They left us a purpose. The holographic displays showed scenes from the past month. Guardian ships helping to clean Earth's oceans using their matter manipulation technology. Ancient medical knowledge being used to cure diseases that had plagued humanity for centuries. Space-folding technology already being adapted to help solve the world's energy and transportation problems. We could use this power to dominate, Sarah continued. We could rule the galaxy as conquerors, as the Scifi originally intended to rule us. But that's not who we are. That's not who we were meant to be. Dr. Chen stepped forward, displaying new data from the Guardian ships. The ancient fleet has detected 12 developing civilizations within our sector alone. Young races taking their first steps into space, just as we recently did. They need guidance, protection, and most importantly, the freedom to grow at their own pace. Admiral Zextar moved to the podium when invited. My people forgot our history. We forgot that we were once one of those developing civilizations, protected and nurtured by humanity's ancestors. We became what we were once protected from. He bowed his head. We asked to learn from you again, to remember who we were meant to be. The hall erupted in discussion. Through her neural link, Sarah could feel the Guardian ships in orbit, their AIs watching and waiting for humanity's decision. The choice would be theirs, not the AI's, just as their ancestors had intended. We propose a new Guardian Council, Sarah announced once the hall quieted. Not rulers, but protectors. Not conquerors, but teachers. The Scifi will help us rebuild the ancient networks, using their experience to help us understand the challenges young civilizations face. Images appeared showing the first joint human Scifi projects. Former invasion ships being reformed into exploration vessels. Warriors becoming teachers. Ancient enemies becoming partners in preservation. Our ancestors hid their legacy not from fear, Sarah concluded, but from wisdom. They understood that true power lies not in the ability to destroy or dominate, but in the choice to protect and nurture. They guided our development for 300,000 years, helping us become who we needed to be. The vote was unanimous. As the assembly erupted in cheers, Sarah felt Guardian's approval through the neural link. Humanity had not just reclaimed their ancestors' power, they had proven themselves worthy of it. In orbit, the ancient ships began to pulse with soft light, a signal that would travel across the galaxy. The Guardians had returned, not as the mighty conquerors some had feared, but as the protectors they were always meant to be. The real test begins now, Sarah told Dr. Chen as they watched the sun rise over Earth the next morning, the Guardian ships visible as bright stars in the dawn sky. Our ancestors spent 300,000 years preparing us for this moment. Time to show them their faith in us was justified. A new age was beginning, not just for Earth, but for thousands of young civilizations across the galaxy. The ancient fleet had awakened, and with it, humanity's true purpose had been reborn.